everyone, here's hoping you're all well and happy. This is chapter 4, module 1, and here we're going to talk about cost or value. So this module is divided into 2 points, starting with an explanation of what cost-based pricing is and why it should be avoided generally. And the second point will of course deal with value-based pricing, showing you how to implement it and thrive accordingly. Now we're all well and summarized, let's get going. So let's start at the very beginning. Famously, a very good place to start. So what the H is cost-based pricing, you ask? So this is a pricing strategy based on cost constraints and expected margin. So the selling price of the product or service is determined according to the fixed and variable costs. So maintenance costs, salary costs, and that kind of thing. This is a very common strategy, and it is fairly logical to land on in many different types of business, but it is not necessarily well suited to the hotel industry. This is simply because the cost of the room varies very little based on the actual category of the room, while in turn the value of the room can vary drastically from single or double. Take the obvious example, a single room versus a double room. The maintenance cost will be broadly the same, while the value of the double room is much higher than the value of the single room. There are 2 types of cost-based pricing, and the first we'll deal with is called cost plus pricing. So cost plus pricing is a pricing method in which a markup is added to the cost of the product or service over the production and maintenance costs. It is just adding a fixed percentage to the cost of production to make a margin. The limitation of this strategy is that it completely ignores demand, which we do not want to do. The second is break-even pricing. With break-even pricing, the price of the product is determined by the manufacturer, production and delivery without markup. It is a pricing method that determines the quantity that a company must sell in order to cover the production costs. It is therefore obviously not applicable in the hotel sector, as the product, which is actually the rooms, is not manufactured in large quantities for one thing. You don't really need a degree in economics to understand that cost pricing is therefore a very bad idea and should be avoided when in the business of selling tourist accommodation, mainly because it doesn't allow you to optimize your income and will likely see you missing out on opportunities that you do not want to. Okay, that's it for point 1. We can move on to the next point with a clear conscience. So, what does value-based pricing look like? Value-based pricing is a pricing strategy that sets the price according to what consumers are willing to pay. Rather than calculating the production costs and markups, the value of the product is assessed according to customer perception. A great example of perceived value pricing is the art market. Some artworks are sold for thousands or millions of euros, and you may wonder why. Well, simply because the buyer perceives some paintings to have great value, and that's that. It could be because of the details in the work, its unique colors, or what it'll add to a room. Who knows? It is what it is, and that's why it works. Remember, value is not only about money, it is also about emotions, namely those caused by a product or service. Travelers are willing to pay more when they perceive your offer as an enjoyable or unique experience, or enjoyably unique even. There are several criteria that can influence the customer's perception of the value of a product. For example, the evolution of the market, most notably in terms of demand. Okay? Let's say a traveler wants to go to a country for the Olympics. He knows that the price of accommodation will be high because there will be a lot of people attending the event. Therefore, we see he perceives the price to be high because he knows for sure the demand will be very high. Another example of criteria that might affect the customer's perception is the benefits that come with a product. In the hotel industry, it's quite simple. It's the experience that the traveler will have. So it's the services or the quality of the room and the hotel in general. A traveler knows very well that a hotel that offers breakfast or has more stars simply will cost more. Another possible effector is price comparison with other products, or in other words, your competition. So we know a hotel room is not a product that travelers buy in just a few seconds. They take the time to look at several options before making their choice. So different prices offered by the different establishments, but above all, they will analyze the experience that you promise them compared to your competition, which will allow them to determine the value of your offer and the price they are willing to pay to stay in your establishment. So how do you implement a value-based pricing strategy? Okay, this is the moment where everything you've learned in the previous chapters can stand up and be counted. If you have all the exercises done, you have the information you need to do a value-based pricing right now, and in a meaningful way. If you did it accurately, the steps should be familiar to you because we've already taken them together. So first of all, we're going to analyze customers. And remember, in chapter 1, module 1, we did segmentation and personas. And then in chapter 2, module 2, we worked on the perception that the personas might have of your hotel. Then we're going to do demand analysis. So in chapter 3, module 1, we did the demand curve. And then in chapter 3, module 3, we did the demand calendar. And then in analyzing the competition, remember in chapter 2, module 2, we did benchmarking, and in chapter 2, module 3, we did competitive intelligence. So you use the personas and the room categories you created in the first chapter. At the formidable Ace of Clubs hotel, remember we have the couple, the family, and the business persona. We also know from our exercises that our standard double room category is geared towards the couple persona. So next, we'll take the demand curve we made for each room category, and we can see that the price to sell this room at a given time of year. So by cross-checking this with the previous information, we can know what would be the optimal price to propose for our couple persona. Additionally useful then, we have our study of the competition. So based on the competitive intelligence we gathered and benchmarking, we have a clear idea of the competition and its weak points. As I said in a previous video, you shouldn't set your price in relation to the competition, but you should take it into account and adjust your own prices intelligently. Like when a competing hotel is closed, for example, we might raise our prices slightly to compensate for the fluctuation in the supply in our area of the market. All of this information, of course, can and should have been summarized in the demand calendar, which is the most useful tool on your belt for value-based pricing. Okay, guys, let that settle. That was point 2. That's done. Let's proceed with caution, because in theory now, we are ready to attack the thorny but in-value issue of price strategy, which we will do in the next video, okay? Bye!